given you the link 20 minutes ago.
Oh, you probably did.
No.
I had a hard time getting the machine.
Oh, I did. I did give it you 20 minutes ago. Okay, that actually explains a lot. Okay, it does explain a lot. All right, not to worry. Okay, these things happen, right? Okay, right. Welcome everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Talking Niagara. This is Peter Giblet, and there is Dave Wheeler. Morning, Dave. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah. And Mike says, morning, abolish the Senate is the largest waste of taxpayers' money and corrupt to the bone. Funny you should be talking about that, actually, Mike, because what's the first thing on the agenda? Barely half Canadian senators vote for key legislation. And also, I was looking at a number of things in relation to this. And there's an old 10-year-old article that I gave you, Dave, that was, 11-year-old article that was talking about abolition of the Senate and the key problems in that regard. But essentially, dozens of senators are routinely absent from the Red Chamber, and some legislative changes passed with barely half members casting a vote. In the past 12 months, following the last election, in the 12 months following the last election, they convened 76 sitting days. Only 8 senators had a perfect attendance record, where 54 have all the others have anywhere between 1 and 54 non-attendance days. And worse than that,
they don't really have.
Some of them are just arriving, checking in, and disappearing.
Yes. So basically, every once in a while, everybody looks at the Senate and says, "What the hell do we have this here for?" They then tighten up their boots for a period of time until nobody sees them again, and then they start their BS all over again. So basically, they have in the 12 months following the last federal election, the Senate convened for just 76 days out of 365 days. They work for 176 days. They have a base salary of what, 192,000.
Yeah, can I have that job, please? I'd be there every one of those 76 days.
Yes, really. Okay, and it says here, still only 8 senators had a perfect attendance record over that period. Others absent for reported reasons and commitments, time off and illness away, ranging from 1 to 54 days. 54 days out of 76. That doesn't look too good, does it?
No.
So they only had to convene for 76 days, and they can't even show up. Now, some have a pretty good excuse. The senator from the Northwest Territories there, she has a great deal of difficulty getting into Ottawa because, as we know, anyone try to fly back and forth across Canada, there's not a whole lot of jets available a lot of times. You have to do stuff like if you're going to go from Manitoba to Vancouver, you might have to fly to Toronto first and then to Vancouver, sort of backtrack like that. But so something like that, yeah, you can understand. But to me, it just seems as these sources said some senators realized their colleagues' spotty attendance record is a problem and have vowed to address it when the upper house convenes after its summer break. I don't think so. Really, they're going to tighten up that. Do you remember? Well, you wouldn't remember because you weren't here, but the Senate was an appointment for life before.
Yeah.
What they found was they had the Senate and they had all these Senate appointments and these people collecting money, and they realized they weren't even showing up to the Senate. Like half of them, so many of them weren't even showing up.
Yeah.
And then they said they had to have an an attendance record. They found that a lot of the senators were really too old. They didn't even come, so they had to have a report card basically, and they could only get their money if they attended a certain percentage of the meetings.
Yeah.
Right. So what was happening was you had people showing up at the Senate, pushing in people who were 90-something years old in wheelchairs who didn't even know their name, pushing them into the chambers just to sit there to show everybody they were in attendance. What they do today, okay, then they finally put age limits on them. I think it was 75. They finally put an age limit on it. Well, and they say you couldn't. And then, wait a minute, I haven't finished. So they did that, and then what is happening ever since? Though they put an age limit on, but then the Duffy controversy with the two other senators, I forget their names, were in their expense accounts and their traveling things, right? And when they found they spent $1 million trying to charge these guys, and what they found out is these rules for the Senate were so ambiguous, there was nothing you could do. The law could not charge these people because the rules were written purposely ambiguous so that nobody could actually charge them with anything.
Yeah.
And now what they do, in order to get the attendance records, they come in and sign in for the meeting and leave, so it looks as if they're there. Let's get rid of this body.
Well, I disagree with you, but I think we need change to this body, and we need basically, it needs to be an elected body. I think if it's elected and responsible to the people, it becomes one that is more responsive. We're supposed to, the idea of this body is that if you're the prime minister and you've just you've just gone through a legal change that you want to implement, the Senate is there to actually add a level of sensibility to say, hey, sorry, Mr. Carney, the law that you're proposing is wrong, and here's why.
The problem, you wanted an elected body. Well, what that could do is you could have conservatives in the elected in the Senate, and you would have liberals, let's say, in the Commons. Then the Commons would come up with legislation or everything, and the conservatives in the Senate would then just block it.
But I would also
block everything, every piece of administration coming through. The other thing is the way things are set up. In order to get rid of the Senate, it takes an extreme, like 7 out of 10 provinces and all kinds of nobody.
That was the purpose of that other article about abolishing the Senate and the 10 difficult steps to abolishing the Senate, because this is back in 2015 when there was concerns back then, and there was an overhaul under Prime Minister Harper that sought clarity from the Supreme Court about how exactly one can go about redoing the Red Chamber, and even that he discovered basically even the most modest reforms would require constitutional amendments approved by both houses of Parliament and at least 7 provinces.
Yeah, we find that the Senate is a problem. It is a sweet appointment. It's lots of money. You get as far as I know, the Senate gets everything, gets, expense accounts, like blah, 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 blah. They're supposed to travel around. They're supposed to do things like that. But it seems like they go more on holidays. We found back ways how the senators were abusing their system. Like Mike Duffy, he was going around and he was a fundraiser for the Conservative, and he was using the flight time that he was allowed as a senator to go fly places and do fundraising for the conservatives. And yet he rightly defended himself. There's nothing wrong with that. Look at the Constitution. Look at the rules that we go by. And after spending $1 million and bringing in a bunch of retired judges to look things over, they couldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. It took them $28 million to find out that they could not charge these people with abuses of up to $1 million. There was 3 senators, and they were supposed to have abused the system to the tune of $1 million, and we spent $28 million only to find out the rules are so ambiguous. There's nothing you can say that they broke any rule.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem that we have here. We need to tighten some of those rules, but how do you, given what that earlier article said about there needing to be essentially 7 out of 10 provinces plus the upper and lower plus the Senate needs to vote on its own demise, so to speak.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. Yeah. Oh, you want me to vote against this beautiful job? I make about $200,000 a year. Only have to come to Parliament 76 times if I feel like it, and I live in nice, cushy places, and I got nice airplanes to go around the world in, and I've got an expense account, and I have to, nice clothes, and these chairs are comfortable. Yeah, I'm really going to vote against myself here.
Well, some will, of course, but yes, exactly that. You're going to vote yourself out of a job? No.
Like, Ontario government does not have a Senate. The Quebec government does not have a Senate. The Manitoba government does not have a Senate. Why do we have to have a Senate?
Well, yes, but it's supposed to be in the legal sense. There's supposed to be checks and balances in all of these things, and part of
where's the checks and balances in the Ontario government then?
Yeah, fair question.
Clearly,
fair question. It's a very fair question, right? Absolutely, because we don't have an upper house in the Ontario government. Absolutely correct, and it leads to, and it's led on a couple of occasions to Doug Ford introducing laws and then removing them.
Look, what the Senate, what the upper house is supposed to do, it doesn't do. Ontario functions just fine without an upper house. Manitoba, BC, PEI, they all work very well without an upper house. The upper house is an old-fashioned thing. It was originally put there when Parliament was created, the House of Commons and the House of Lords. It's a similar thing. It's supposed to be a place for the privileged of the world to look upon and get a nice big fat check. It does not work anymore. It is a useless body. You've got to get rid of it. We do not need it. If Ontario doesn't need it, PEI doesn't need it. These are functioning governments. Ontario is a $14 million or 14 million people little country. You could carve it off and be a country of its own. So to combat back and everything, you think they'd have an upper chamber? No, it functions just as fine with just the Senate is a useless thing. It's a political albatross. It can be used to pay people off. Now, Carney has wisely appointed a conservative to the Senate from Quebec because he thinks that if that conservative is moved into the Senate, that he can get his seat for the Liberals. So that's a smart political move. But I would like to know. I would like to go into a bar and have a chat with unofficial chat with Carney and see what he thinks of the Senate. And I'm pretty sure it's a useless hunk of rubbish. That's just a useful place to pay off party faithful.
Well,
and I agree with Mike.
One of the reasons why I'd say that basically we should we need to get rid of party political status in the Senate.
Well, if you could come up with a way in which they were elected, it's not. What happens now is the Senate, it's done partisanship wise up until Trudeau, and Trudeau said he's going to be a nonpartisan thing, but that was kind of a cover up for what he really was doing, which is pretty much partisan.
The problem with the Trudeau changes is they didn't go in the right direction. Basically, it's still a government appointee type situation. I'd like to see, for example, what you were saying about the need to be that the Governor General should be a First Nation person. Should there be some First Nation influence in the Senate?
Yeah, I think if we need a titular monarch, we'll dump King Charlie, let the chiefs throughout Canada vote for a titular president or whatever they want. They could even call themselves the chief of Canada. Who cares? If we need that representative, and then thereafter we can cut ties with Britain because we don't need them anyway. Like, I mean, we long since don't need them.
Agree.
At one time the British Army was there, supposedly there to protect us from the United States after the Revolutionary War, but we don't need that anymore. And we don't need the trade, the British commerce trade that used to, we can do all that on our own. So,
well, we can get British commerce and trade other ways anyway. It's through open agreements. If we need to trade with Britain or any of the Commonwealth countries, we do that through negotiation.
There is. See, the British Commonwealth is less and less relevant. So, at one time, it was a good way in which to create trade agreements with the other British Commonwealth nations. But don't need that anymore. So look, but I mean, I don't know how you're going to get rid of the Senate, which is just an obstructive body. To me, it is just a nuisance. It's an albatross around every government's neck. Because it will slow down. It will slow down government. It will slow down legislature, and then they'll slow it down so they have to go to the next time. Parliament will close, and then the bill will have to be brought back up, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, the Senate is a useless body, and I think we should get rid of it. I don't think we're trying to pretend that it is doing a function when every province. I don't know. Does the Australian Parliament have a Senate? How about the New Zealand? Do they have a Senate? Do they have an upper house?
Do in Australia. I'm not sure whether they're going through the same questions in Australia.
Yeah. How about the Germans? Do they have an upper house? How about the Swedes? Do they have an upper house?
I don't know.
The British have an upper house because they still pretend. Pretend they're medieval power.
Well, because of the House of Lords, because of the structure of the British Parliament with the House of Commons and the House of Lords, that is what was behind, of course, the setting up of Congress and the Senate in the US, the two separate levels.
Well, the U.S.
and undoubtedly the U.S. structure is what brought the Canadian structure.
No, the Canadian structure is based on the older system from Britain, right? The U.S. took the parliamentary system and changed it in a ways in which each particular state is supposed to have very distinct autonomous powers. And there is severe checks and balances placed upon the executive, the Senate, and the Congress, and introduced the judiciary as well. So the checks and balances are set up not like the the British system and the Canadian system arrived organically. It was a slow development of Parliament getting more and more power over time, whereas the United States was an abrupt break with the old power system and a creation of a system.
Well, what I mean is,
republic.
Yeah, but it's still based upon the House of Representatives, and it's still based upon the House of Representatives being similar to the House of Commons, and the Senate being similar to the House of Lords, as it would have been back in the day.
No, Senate is not similar to the House of Lords.
It's based upon a state system, and it's elected. That's the difference between the Senate and the House of Lords.
Well, the Senate is there as one of the counterweights to the executive. The most suspicious executive would be the president. The situation, the body of government is most likely to be corrupted would be that of the president, as we see that's happening now. And the Senate is designed specifically that each different state has two, no matter how big the state is, has two senators. That means 100. There are 100 senators, and you could do it from a little pipsqueak like New Hampshire, state like New Hampshire, or a huge one like California. They both only get two.
Yeah.
Right. So New Hampshire is equal to, and that's supposed to balance. That's supposed to have balance. Not let the most powerful overwhelm the most humble.
But again, in the US, there's currently debate upon the need to abolish the electoral college.
Well, that's a completely different thing altogether.
No,
that's nothing that we're talking about here. So not only upper house, unelected upper house. Yes, that's true. It's an unelected upper house. That's
why I believe it needs to be an elected upper house. I've been saying that for decades in relation to the British House of Commons, House of Lords as well. That needs to be elected.
Who said that about World War III?
Just heard that World War III by the end of the week.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, it's postponed. It's like the victory in the U.S. victory over Iran. It keeps happening every week, and so does World War III. I think World War III is about to begin every other week, and the victory over Iran happens every week, several times. So, yeah, we'll just put that into the line. Yeah, World War III is about to. If China went after Taiwan, I would be worried about something escalating to World War III. Right now, with Ukraine and Russia being so exhausted, I think there might be a deal coming up there that might stop the hostilities. That thing might have turned into World War III because the Russians are so frustrated they might use a tactical nuclear weapon. If that happens, look out. And the other thing is,
if that happens,
the Ukrainian. What?
If the tactical nuke happens, it changes everything.
Yeah, then France and Britain both have sort of tired old nuclear systems, but they're trying to get them ramped up as deterrents. Pakistan's got a bomb. It says it would sell to Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia feels very vulnerable now because the United States hasn't been able to protect it very much. Mm-hmm. And of course, Iran could buy a nuclear bomb from North Korea. So if Israel takes one of its nukes and bombs Iran doesn't have its own nuclear weapon, but it could buy one from North Korea. So those are the things I would worry about for WW3. But right now, I'm quite happy hearing that World War III is going to start any day now, because I've heard that for the last 20 years.
Well, that's for sure. Actually, let's be honest, the Cuban Missile Crisis, World War III was minutes away, wasn't it?
Yeah, the prediction of World War III is like Netanyahu's prediction that Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon for the last 40 years. Any day now, Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon. from the year 2000, from the year 1990 to 2026, and only one president was dumb enough. Oh God, thick in the brain, DJT.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Moving on. This is a piece of news that I've been wanting to hear for a little while. Right, here's a piece of news that I wanted to hear for a little while. U.S. Commerce Secretary's Epstein links were uncovered by a British whistleblower, and further. So we've got a couple of Epstein stories this week before the Great War starts.
Yes, yeah, and well, I thank Rick for reminding us that World War III is imminent, and Mike says Trump will get his way to call martial law and no elections. Do not worry. Yeah, he thinks he can, but remember, each one of the states is responsible for the election in that particular state, and even if those states are red states, they don't really like federal interference in their elections. And yeah. I think even among like the most MAGA lackey states like Texas, who bow down to everything the MAGA Lord says, I think even they would put up resistance. We found out what happened in Iowa recently, where Republicans are not winning the way they should. They're completely solid red state, but they're revolting against MAGA Republicans. So there are cracks in the veneer, let's put it that way.
Okay, so a British man has basically told the BBC that he unearthed evidence indicating that his former boss, Howard Lutnick, now U.S. Commerce Secretary, failed to disclose a business relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
One of the most greasiest.
And in also in this regard as well, billionaire Warren Buffett stops donations to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation because of Bill Gates having links to.
Oh yes, yeah, Trump's best buddy there. Yeah.
Okay, so there we have kind of the latest on this. So it's both sides of the house, so to speak. You know, and this is the BBC breaking both of them, of course.
Yes. So, yeah. So this is rather rich. I'm trying to find the article now. I don't know why I keep losing it. There we go. So there we go. Come on up. Yeah. So we know what Howard Lutnick is, the bald guy with the hair combed back on his sides, and and a little goatee, and he's the guy that stands beside Trump. He's Trump's Ed McMahon. Everything Trump says, you can see him in the background, even if it isn't funny. He does that. So he's Trump's Ed McMahon anytime he's around him, who will laugh at anything Trump says. And he of course famously was interviewed because someone found out that he lived beside Jeffrey Epstein. And he says, oh yeah, I met him once, and we went into his place, and he gave me the creeps. My wife and I, the creeps so bad, I never saw him again, never talked to him, never even came close. And then, of course, the Epstein files comes out. And what did the Epstein files reveal? Not only was he a pal of Epstein's, he was a business partner in business ventures. And not only that, he was so creeped out by Epstein that he took his family, his kids, to Epstein Island, his nanny to Epstein Island, his friends' kids and him all went to Epstein Island. And there's a nice picture of Howard Lutnick walking around the island with Jeffrey Epstein. So the guy is a creepy, like low, vulgar liar, kind of a sly, vulgar liar type dude. He is. He is called the most disliked person on Wall Street or something. Most hated man on Wall Street.
And then Lutnick has also been linked with Prince Andrew.
Yes, he's tried. He, as a matter of fact, in the article here, it says that him and Epstein decided to give Prince Andrew $1 million or something like that, because they could buy him, and they strictly says all it took was $1 million to buy the prince, and because the prince had a bunch of political and economic connections that they hoped to tap into. And of course, Prince Andrew was a total lackey of Epstein. He was seen constantly with him, mixed up with all that pedophile stuff. He denied it vehemently, but as every new Epstein file is revealed, he is more and more implicated.
Yeah.
And the wealthy and the powerful are coming out of this. And of course, the Republicans called for the Epstein files to be released for 4 years prior to Trump getting elected. Demanded it, insisted upon it, and once he got elected in, what did they say? Well, you know what? Biden didn't open up the files, so there must not be anything there. You know, but what they found out is the thing was full of Republicans as well as Democrats and powerful people that the Republicans needed for contributions and everything else like that. That is the hypocrisy of the whole thing. Now the Republicans not too interested in the Epstein files.
So have you ever seen a cover-up that no one will do anything about? Pedos, yes, Lutnick had his own mask on the wall of Epstein's island. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I didn't see the mask, no.
I didn't see a mask. I don't know whether that is. I don't know anything about that one, Rick. Not seen any connection with Carney in there. In fact, I looked at the Epstein files for Carney. Didn't, you know? Yeah, there's a few. He's got information on absolutely everyone, but it's the people who've got like 15,000 documents in the Epstein files that you want to be worried about, not the ones where there's 2,000 or 3,000 documents talking about them.
What happened with the Epstein was a wealthy person, of course. I think his final fortune was half a billion dollars, $500 million, and could have even been more. He seems to have had fingers in the Mossad pie, or at least could have been an asset of Mossad, whatever. He had a variety of business interests and connections, and he covered it up by knowing everybody. Most people, though, like Clinton and even Trump, I think, once he got in trouble with the law first time, and he got away with that. Remember, he got the sweetheart deal in Florida. And Acosta, who is the accuser at the time, or the prosecutor, said that he was told to go easy on him because he was a Mossad agent, and that was of interest to the CIA. So those are the rumors that go around. That's what Acosta said, who was the prosecutor. That was his excuse for giving him such a slap on the wrist kind of deal for being a ped. So they just give him one charge of soliciting an underage prostitute, something like that, and left all the other victims just to be victimized. And he continued being a victimizer. But most of his associates that he had clamored to, he got like Stephen Hawking's, he had David Copperfield, the magician, he had various politicians and thinkers and everything like that, because he could promise them fundraising for their charities or whatever things they're doing. Most of those people discontinued their association with him once it was revealed what he had been doing. That he had these massage things.
Yeah, it was like that Jewish commentator that you often quote.
Which one?
he had a relationship with him first of all, and then when
Noam Chomsky.
Noam Chomsky, that's
Yeah,
it.
Noam Chomsky.
Once he found out about what was going on the island, that was disassociated at that point, right?
Well, fortunately, with Noam Chomsky and his wife, they made friends with and did not back check him, and of course, Noam Chomsky is extremely old. By the time he made his association with Epstein, he was very old, and of course, Epstein dangled the same carrot. We can help do some fundraising for whatever you're doing, and this is where Bill Gates fell off the wagon, as we'll find in the new article, but.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, most of the people that were associated with him, that he had lots of associations with, he guarded his island and the thing that happens in his island by having a whole lot of notable people as friends and associates.
Yeah.
Most of those people left his company and wouldn't return to it after he was accused of what he was doing.
Yeah. An interesting thing is that, so back in 2010, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Buffett started pledging to give their foundation because he was looking at giving away his fortune during his lifetime. And Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was one of the donees, but now under the current time, since the beginning of 25, there's been no links at all with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Now, Bill and Melinda Gates divorced in 21 after 27 years of marriage, and then Melinda Gates set up a foundation which he co-founded to help women's rights in the US.
Let's turn back the dial here. Let's turn back the time. So Bill and Melinda Gates came up with a very, very ambitious charitable organization. Yeah. It was a really good one. So good that Buffett looks at this and he says, they're doing better than what I am doing. I have a foundation and they are more set up. So I'm going to feed them money. And one of the projects that the Bill and Melinda Foundation did was try to find a vaccination for malaria. Yeah. Now, that was an extremely expensive proposition, but malaria is the number one killer in the world and has been for centuries. Absolutely. What they want to do is find a means by which to eradicate or at least vaccinate against malaria. Now, that's going to be a very, very tough thing to do. The vaccination would take a lot of money. And that is exactly what Bill and Melinda Gates did. They put a lot of money into trying to eradicate malaria by achieving a vaccination that can be given. And that work is ongoing, and it is being incrementally successful every time they come up with another method. I think they got to the point where they have a vaccination they feel that will protect up to 60%. Yeah. You will be protected 60% more with this vaccination, but that continues. And I actually met a woman that was working on that when I was down at Dominica. And anyway, now Warren Buffett comes along though, and so he feeds the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation money and the other charities too. But once the Bill sort of really he's either really stupid or I don't know what he's doing, but he starts to go after Epstein and try to get him to help fundraise because Epstein, that is the carrot, one of the carrots that Epstein uses. He can dangle a carrot and says, well, I can fundraise for your fund, and or help you with that. Bill claims that that's the reason why he sort of didn't really pay much attention to his prosecution in Florida, probably thinking because of the very low sort of the mild sentencing he got, he probably didn't think it was a big deal. But later he says,
well, he appeared. Yeah, in June of this year, Gates appeared before the U.S. House Oversight Committee to answer questions about his relationship to Epstein.
Yes, and that's what I was just parroting.
Yeah.
Basically, he says he didn't think the issue was that big of a deal. He didn't look into it, partly because the sentencing was so low. I would imagine, you got a guy that gets parole, and you think, well, it couldn't be that serious, And he's trying to get a prostitute, and the prostitute happened to be younger age, so. He says he didn't look into it, but almost every other one of Epstein's friends and associates that he made walked away, except for guys like greasy Howard Lutnick, who didn't care how many children he abused. He was a good source of money and business operative. In any case, once Warren Buffett checks this out and he sees he's been tried to associate with Epstein for fundraising, although Warren Buffett has never said anything about it, that is everybody's conclusion that Warren Buffett will not support the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation any longer. He's going to funnel his money other places. And he says by the time, I think he's got 7 years, he's going to take his money at 95. He's 95 years old now. He's going to take his money and funnel it away here, there, and everywhere in hopes that will be done in 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much, Warren Buffett.
Well, he's obviously expecting that he's in his 90s now, and
95.
That he's not going to last that much longer.
Yeah, and that's what he says in his statement. Of course, his lifetime, at the age of 95 could happen any day. He's gone, but he's making plans for these certain charitable donation avenues are filled up with his money, so that even if he dies now or dies later, whatever, they're going to get large amounts of money. And he's going to make sure that happens. Like Warren Buffett's an interesting guy. Very interesting guy.
Yeah. The interesting thing is about this Epstein scandal, of course, it's affecting both sides of the, because there's no way, because Howard Lutnick is clearly a Republican. There is, not that we've heard about Bill Gates's political allegiance, but I doubt he would have any, he would have no relationship at all with Republicans, I wouldn't think.
Who?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates would, if he, look, in this situation where he is, sure he would. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he why wouldn't he associate himself with Republicans?
He's never actually associated himself with any political party, to my recollection.
Yeah, me too. Everybody assumes that he's a liberal, but if you look at all his business dealings and his legal cases, he's very, very right wing when it comes to business and things of that kind. He would fit quite well into the tech bros that surround Trump right now. So, I don't think he could care less one way or another. If he's doing his foundation and looking for funding for his foundation, you cannot be discriminating that way. You cannot say, "Well, you're a Republican, so I'm not going to take any of your money." I'm not going to ask you for help for my malaria vaccine.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. And Mike says Bill Gates lost his wife because of his playtime. It sounds like it, but who's to know, Mike?
Well, he cheated on his wife. It's very clear that he cheated on his wife, and he says he regrets it. I think it's just the disease that men get when they're rich and powerful. They want younger fluff on their arm. It's a trophy kind of thing. I'm rich, I'm famous, I get women, you
Mm.
know, and
Yeah.
but obviously, probably Melinda Gates was probably the best thing to happen. Remember what Bill Gates was? He was a nerd that nobody wanted to talk to, and he worked out of his garage with another nerd that nobody wanted to talk to.
That's
right.
Sure. Yeah.
Look at Bezos. The same thing. You ever see his early stuff? He's the nerdiest, goofiest dude ever. He's the guy that you would push down just because the way he looked. You know, hey, get out of my way. You know, so he's then they transform themselves, right? They transform themselves. So Bill Gates is that nerdy kid, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that goofy kid
And he never
that
got
couldn't
married
throw
in-
a football if you asked him 10 times. And so is Bezos and all that.
And he never got married until he was in his 40s.
Who? Which one?
Gates.
Gates. Yeah, probably. You know, I mean, there's a guy where money couldn't buy you anything. You know, so
he's in his mid 70s right now, to my knowledge. Maybe a little bit, maybe the upper 70s, but you know, but again, you know, but so, and Melinda Gates is quite a bit young, quite a few years younger than him anyway.
Whatever that is, I don't follow them that stuff very much. You know, I'm popular culture and who marries who. I just don't follow that crap. But Melinda Gates seems to have been very effective, at least in directing some of the wealth of Microsoft to charities.
Yeah.
So
and one of the things you see, this whole idea about helping with the malaria and getting water, having water for places like Africa's an absolutely important.
Look, there's where Bill Gates fell down. He could have really zeroed in on these things, and he didn't use his head very well at all. He needs advice. His wife freaked out on him when she found out that he went to Epstein to look for donations and stuff like that. Why would you associate with a vulgar pedophile like that for? Why? You know?
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end of their relationship.
Yeah, so
whether or not
I'm not gonna judge Bill Gates or whatever. In this particular article, though, it seems very clear to the pundits here that the reason why Warren Buffett was so big on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation early on is because they had a very organized system and a direction to go. Warren Buffett does not like the associations that Bill Gates has made with Epstein, and it appears that is the main reason why he's withholding his charitable donations.
Okay.
To Bill Gates.
We got to move on because this question's got to be asked. Can Polyev keep his job and defeat Carney?
N-O.
Yeah, well, you see, there's an article that's been published in National Post that's asking precisely that question. And here's the thing. I think that from just purely looking at the political parties and the state of the political parties right now, ignoring who the people are at the moment, I would say the Conservatives are in a lot of trouble right now. That Polyev did a great job but failed, and now it's probably time, in the interests of the Conservative Party, that they replace him.
I'm not so sure replacing him would do any good at this particular time.
That's a fair comment as well.
Because one thing Polyev does have on his side is his experience as a politician. He's an extremely good politician. He has an acerbic wit, and he has a genuine desire to make the country better. Those things he has. and he has been a solid leader of conservative. He's built them up and widened the base of the party and made the party larger and bigger.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he ran into a brick wall along his, like, he should have been prime minister in any other election, but along comes this this factor called Carney.
Yeah.
Along comes a liberal that talks like a conservative and is central, really central, is a man of pragmatism and practical works. He's a man who has had practical experience in economy. He's worked for some of the biggest financial institutions. He's also the governor of the Bank of England, governor of Bank of Canada, and he is a practical man and sees things in a dollars and cents, black and white issue if it has to happen. He doesn't murky himself with too many idealism. And unfortunately, that's what's supposed to be Poilievre's job. You know, I don't think the conservatives can do any better than him at this particular time.
Well, I don't see anybody in the Conservative Party that is potentially the next leader either.
Remember, we find this situation for the Liberals and the NDP here in Ontario. We got Dougie there, who's got lots of problems and lots of conspiracies wheeling around him, and a lot of problems, and you know, very questionable things happen around Doug Ford. But who among the Liberals or the NDP have anything to take over for him? Nothing. They can't even challenge him on the most basic of things. And I think that's not as much of a problem for the conservatives, but it's a little bit of the problem. Right now, Carney's on a high. He's going about the country. He's flying about the world. Everybody says he's not really making trade deals, but he's saying he is. And here's the one. Anyway, so basically, and Carney's been able to face down Trump and won't take a bad deal. He's not calling him daddy like the Europeans, and we've got our elbows up and all that. So we have a measure of national pride when the Americans try to, well, not the Americans generally, but Trump trying to push us around. So he's not going anywhere, and some of that luster that he has because of his ability to face up against the Americans, he shares that with Doug Ford, of all people, because Doug, who's in a situation where he cannot be challenged, has a lot of his reputation based on the fact that he's elbows up to Donald Trump. Who's going to be able to replace them? Poor Poilievre, he's going to be a good manager for the Conservative Party until Carney goes away. I had a friend here last night who's never liked any politician ever, anytime, ever. And to my surprise, he was complimenting Carney last night, thinking that he is on the right road. I've never heard him say anything positive about any politician in the 50 years I've known him. So that could be the charm of Carney.
Well, I don't doubt that that is actually one of the great influences that Carney has. That's for sure, right? And again, it seems that he's better at some of this stuff than is Poilievre.
Hey, anyone that was a pretty good hockey player can't be all bad.
But I wouldn't be voting for a hockey star as prime minister.
No, but Carney, he was the backup goalie for what was it, Yale or Harvard hockey team. I mean, that's pretty hard to get on the Harvard hockey team, man.
Backup goalkeeper, does that mean he stays on the bench?
Well, he's there to fill in. Well, he's the second best goalie, so you got to have at least two goalies, right? And so
that's what I mean. He stays on the bench and kind of looks at the game and goes, "Yep, well, Stay out there, Mr. Goaltender. I don't need to get in there. I'm studying my economics right now.
Yeah, well, the problem with a backup goalie is if you get a really good backup goalie in the NHL, you don't trade him. And that backup goalie gets more and more frustrated all the time. But if he's a really good one, you don't trade him because you don't want your competition to get a good goalie.
Yeah,
it's happened a few times to goalies when they're trying hard to get into the NHL. They'll take the first contract that comes that way, and they end up being a backup goalie, and they're just as good as the goalie, and but the team doesn't want to trade them away because they don't want another team to get a good goalie. Yeah. It says here, Carney is not good, says experts. Of course, there's an expert around every corner that has like if you go to the Toronto Sun or some of those, the conservative networks, of course, Carney is not good. He's following it up. The trade issues that he's had, the trade issues that he solved with China, for instance, came at a terrible price because we got to bring 50,000 Chinese cars into Canada. I'll remind everybody that Trudeau used to just parrot anything that the Biden administration did. And Biden administration put 100% tariff on Chinese cars. So Trudeau, without thinking, did the same thing and got us into a whole lot of crap, and we couldn't sell our canola oil or canola seed or some of our seafood to China because of it. And so Carney fixed it, and that cost 50,000. But we would have had those 50,000 cars anyway if we didn't just parrot what Biden administration did. And we see what happened with the demonstrations, the freedom convoys in Ottawa. Why did they happen? It's because Trudeau parroted what Biden had done on the border. He need not have done any of that, but he was a parrot of Biden, and you won't find a guy like Carney being a parrot.
No, he isn't. He is a thinking person, and despite what Rick's saying about, Rick's saying he's not good, say experts.
What experts?
Like, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What I see is the Canadian people having more confidence than ever before, ready to fight back against the Americans and their tariffs. It's not the Americans. I shouldn't say the Americans. I should say the Trump administration, because the average American, I don't think, really likes the idea of these tariffs, and then don't really like the idea of trade resistance. Most of the Americans, particularly Republicans, used to be free trade types like Ronald Reagan. Anyway, aside from all that, we're just going to have to wait out. We're just going to have to wait out the pumpkin, make sure it gets, whenever they decide to bring up Amendment 25 to remove them on craziness issues. That anyway, but we have confidence because you have this bizarro guy down south of us who wants to put his make gold statues, thinks of himself as Jesus, makes himself Jesus memes, has gold statues, wants a triumphal arc, all that kind of stuff. So it puts his face on money, wants his face on Mount Rushmore. Oh God, it goes on. Anyway, so we have to put up with this guy, and I think probably Carney is the best guy to do it because he's the opposite. He's very logical and steadfast. Of course, there's going to be all kinds of problems because you cannot do what you want to do. Carney or any other politician will look at something and say, well, this is what we should do. But then they can't go in a straight line, even with a pipeline, because then they got to go to the indigenous issues and environmental issues and so on and so on and so forth. So I don't know. I think Carney's pretty safe right now. I don't think the Conservatives, if they change leaders, will have any better success.
Well, according to Rick, Trump is fixing the world. There we go.
That's what he says anyway. Yeah, definitely. If you look at Truth Social, my God, things have never been better. You know?
Right. But it's time for us to leave anyway. All right.
Yes. And I would like to leave you with that with Gaza. Gaza keeps going on. Kids are still hungry. They're still pushed into unbelievable situations of living. I heard Senator Lindsey Graham, an old tape of his, saying that they should bomb the crap out of Gaza. We did it to Germany. The Israelis should do it to Gaza. They should bomb them until they're all dead. What a gross pig he was. Anyway, so that's the kind of attitude, the ignorance and attitude that Americans have right now, or even in the West, Tomas. But let's put it this way. That problem started in 1897, and it's been back and forth brutality ever since. To think that I was completely against the October 7th crossing and was horrified by it, but it's just one more situation of back and forth atrocities. The Palestinians do it to the Israelis do it to them, back and forth. The Israelis push them off of more and more land, make it more and more difficult. We saw what happened to Ro Khanna on the West Bank and how the right wing of the United States is trying to twist it and bend it with a big, powerful money from the Israeli lobby. Anyway, this is happening. Even Hakeem Jeffries, I put an article here about Hakeem Jeffries. He's going to find it very difficult supporting Israel going forward.
Yeah,
and
we'll get to that.
I hope that happens. Yeah, I hope that happens because come on, we got to stop all this war. Without further ado, I bid you adieu.
All right, and Rick, if you're up for it, room 136. All right, I'm on there today. Bye.